Welcome to On the Doors with Baz and Rorz, the first ever inaugural episode. Sponsored, of course, by none other than Global Interactive Group, where we take your questions for sales and answer them in a way that you're going to be able to apply and use in your own teams and performance. So without further ado, let's get into it.
Yeehaw.
All right. So just as a brief introduction, so obviously my name is Barrett Kennett. I run FCOM Sales and Marketing. So we are now in 3 cities across Australia. Making some good moves in terms of growing and really taking a lot of time to backwards engineer the why behind why we make sales and how to then process that and teach that to get people performing as quick and as efficiently as possible. So a bit of background. So how about we'll start with Rory. So Rory, why don't you tell the people a bit about yourself?
Yeah, for sure. My name's Rory Hannigan. I'm the executive manager of the Gold Coast wing of FCOM. Been in the industry for coming on to 3.5 years now. Been executive manager for just on 2. Got my little memory pop up on Facebook the other day when I got hoisted up with my bottle of Moe and all the rest of it. So yeah, been in senior management for just over 2 years now. I started in sales in December of 2018, just coming out of uni. So I started international relations at university. Yeah, I actually chose to do that, funnily enough. And I got a job with the government. I had a 6-month period between when I'd finished uni and when the government job started. And I'd known Barrett for a really long time from fighting back in the day. He used to train me in MMA. And yeah, I took sales on and I gave it a go. I've not really looked back since. I've been working in it ever since then. So didn't take the government job on. Yeah.
That was a funny story, that one, because Rory, obviously alluded to the fighting because he was, I think, about 14 at the time when you started fighting. And luckily, because that was my last job, proper job before I got into sales, I was actually a professional mixed martial arts fighter. And I think at the time, I was a reigning Australian champ.
Yep. I think you'd actually just won your first Australian champion.
Yeah. And so Roy got me at my best. I've been in steep decline since then.
Peaks back then. Yeah.
But I thought it was really cool because I ran into Rory on a night out. When was it? About three years ago.
Yeah, right after I finished uni. I was out celebrating, having a couple of drinks.
And he said to me, he goes, hey, I saw you're looking for workers. Could you give me a gig for a couple of months, 2 or 3 months before I go into Canberra and start university? And the first thing I thought was, yeah, look, what's the worst that could happen? A few extra sales never hurt. And the second thing I thought was, oh, poor guy. Why would you?
Sorry, Owen.
And, which is cool. And so we took him on, and about a month in, Rory, you were beating the pants off of everyone. I remember he went down to Melbourne with the guys and high-rolled the whole team.
Yeah.
And a month in, he calls me, and I saw the number come up, and I go, he's going to quit. And I go, hey, how you doing? He goes, hey, Baz, I've been thinking about Canberra. And I'm like, oh, here it goes. He goes, yeah, I turned the job down. I want to do this. I want to promote and be the first executive manager at FCOM. And, for me, I was like, oh. All right, and the funniest part about it was literally to the day a year later, literally 365 days later, Roy got promoted to be the first ever executive manager in the company.
Yeah.
Literally tripling or quadrupling your income within a year's time. Pretty exciting stuff. So
12 months, literally from the day that I made the decision. So it's funny the way the universe works with that sort of stuff. Yeah.
Absolutely. So that's been a good ride. So Rory and myself, and we've got some other guys that have been with us since day one, Alex and even some of the foundational pieces. It's really been a great journey because we had no idea what we were doing. We didn't even understand the idea of a system. We actually had to ask Danny Divis, the owner of Gig, Danny, what is a system? What are our systems?
Yeah, really funny.
Gradually, we implemented the things we needed to be a great office, and then we've been a top performing office since, which has been pretty cool. And then that's now given us the opportunity to really impact people and not only provide opportunity for people, but we've got a lot of guys making a lot of money.
Yeah, especially with this new system that we've implemented, the point system. It's the best time ever to be in the business, guys. So just as a side note, really, really be grateful for that and take advantage of it. There's more money in what we do than ever before, and the only thing holding you back from having it in your hand is you. Baz, may as well give them a little bit of background on yourself as well, just a bit of an introduction.
Yeah. All right. So obviously as mentioned earlier, I'm Barrett, and I think, look, I've moved a lot. I've been to over 30 countries in my life, and I've seen a lot of the world. And I think the thing about my journey is that it's all led me. Everything that I've done has led me here, and even the fighting, my athletic career, the mentality comes into how I operate the business. Because what I love so much about sales more than any other job is that it's results based, just like any sport is, and that's why athletes tend to be so good in sales. People that do either martial arts or sport, or even like competitive dance and things like that.
Yeah,
because it's dog eat dog, and the what you get from that is you get a winner's mentality, which is find a way. That resilience and that resourcefulness, where you've got the results here and you're down here. Where you hit those inevitable failures, most people will quit or blame something and stay exactly where they always are, or just find a woe is me entitled victimhood mentality.
Yeah, and I always find that sports people are just really good at analysing their performance as well. And it's not just sports people, but anyone who comes from a competitive background, they're able to look at the results they got, where they want to be, and fill the gap with constructive self-criticism rather than blaming or making excuses.
Everything's
like
feedback.
Yeah,
everything. It's I preach it all the time. It's the Mario Kart. Race your ghost.
Yeah,
is you don't want to be. You want to have a mindset where all you're trying to do is get better. So you're not really comparing yourself to anyone else.
No.
If you lose, if you don't get the result you want, it's just feedback saying, okay, you're not doing enough, or you don't know enough. And that's then an alarm to go, okay, well, I need to learn something, or I need to ask for help, or I need to...
You're not doing the things you need to do to get where you want to be. So how can you start doing those things? What's the plan to start implementing those things?
And once you learn, and this is something that really hit me the last couple of years, is that success is an equation. It's not, as Brian Tracy says, success is as predictable as the sun rising in the east and setting in the west. Yeah. And once you understand that equation and learn how to implement those variables and have them as habits, it's very hard not to be successful. So then the question is, okay, how do we backwards engineer and work towards teaching people that? And it's like, well, that's what we do.
Because I suppose that's one thing, is to figure out how to be successful yourself, but being able to teach that equation to other people is the really powerful part of what we do. So yeah, we may as well start getting into some questions.
I think that's a great idea.
We've got quite a few to cover. These have come in from offices all around the country, so thank you to the guys that got your questions in. For those watching that didn't get any questions in, make sure to submit them for the next podcast. First of all, we'll go with a couple from Owen's office. So that's TAO down in Canberra and Adelaide. Awesome. So the first question, I'll chuck this one to you, Baz. What's the best way to inspire people on your team?
So this is there's an easy answer and a hard answer to this, right?
Yeah.
How do you inspire people on your team that work with you? Well, there's a hack, and then there's a deeper way to do it. So I'll start with the hack, just because obviously we're salespeople. We like the path of least resistance.
Absolutely. The easier route.
It's basically, you got to understand there's generally one of three things that are going to motivate people to be in a sales team. And that I call them the 3 C's. There's a second round of 3 C's. I'll talk about it another time. But, this 3 C's, people are only ever really going to be motivated. And when I say motivated, it's like what gets them excited. Motivated doesn't mean what's going to make them work harder. It's what puts them in a better state and helps focus them on what they need to do.
Yeah, what's going to get them into peak state.
Yeah. And so it's one of the 3 C's, which is it's either cash, culture, or career. Mm-hmm. Right? And what I mean by that is some people are money motivated. So the guy that runs our Brisbane team, Alex, right? One of the most naturally talented human beings I've ever met in my life.
Yeah.
Is the single most money motivated person I've ever seen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hyper DI personality type, so big, likes things his way, likes to win, likes to be right. But the moment that you wave some money under his nose, it's like a shark in the water. So
raging bull with a red cape.
If I need a big day out of Alex, I say, Alex, if you get 7 sales today, I'll give you $100. He'll have 7 by lunch, by halftime. and so the
beauty of management is he's learned a lot of the other arts of inspiration along the way, but from the get-go, it's been it's a hot money spot. Motivation, 100%. It's definitely his hot spot for sure.
That, so cash is a big one. Culture is another one. So cultures, it's really good for for the people that are a little bit more introverted. Just a fun fact with introversion and extroversion as well is, people always say, are you an introvert or are you an extrovert? the funny thing about it is, so it works on a percentile basis, meaning that so you can either be like in the first percentile, which means you're like the bottom 1% of extroversion, or you're in the 99th percentile. I'm actually, believe it or not, I'm in the 99th percentile, which means, so I love being on stage. I love being around people all the time. If I'm alone for more than 2 hours, I start getting sad.
If I ever get a phone call from Barrett on like a Saturday afternoon and it's out of the blue, I know he's alone. Like, I know he's just not around anyone. Hey bud, how you doing? It's like, you're alone, aren't you? He's like, yep.
Right, and so, but what people don't realize, and we're so quick to label in society these days, but on a percentile, it actually works like a bell curve. So, you've got, on the far ends of the spectrum, most people actually sit in the middle. They're not on the far ends. It's very, very, very rare to be in the first percentile of anything, or the 99th percentile. So most people actually sit between 40 and 60% of what's called extroversion. So are you introverted, are you extroverted? That's commonly known as what's called an ambivert or an omnivert, meaning you can be both. Yep. So when someone says, are you an introvert, are you an extrovert? The answer for most people should be both.
Yep.
If you have too much of one, you need a bit of the other. So if you're around people too much, you need a bit of alone time. And if you're alone for too much, you need some social time. Most people sit in the middle. It's very, very rare you'll get someone who's 1% where they're a complete recluse and the concept of being around people is really scary. So I'm very quick to throw that label out for people who are more introverted. I won't say an introvert or an extrovert, but for someone who is more introverted, they can generally be they just want to contribute something.
Yeah, they want to be a part of something bigger,
and they want to add value.
Yeah, 100%. And culture's really, really big for some of the younger members of your team. When people aren't fully, let's say, sold on the promotion structure, they don't believe that they can be an executive manager yet. They have aspirations of being a team leader, but they're still just mastering sales. Culture is what keeps these people coming back, and they're still really valuable to a team. They're vital to running a successful team. But yeah, culture is a really, I guess, underrated way to inspire the people in your team and keep them coming back.
You hit it on the head, especially your younger people. When you think back when you were 18 years old, 19 years old, you don't think past the weekend. Time moves much slower.
Yeah.
Your brain does not have to remember as much as an adult. It doesn't. It's already got all the things that are going to save your life. It doesn't need to record every single moment. And when you're younger, it takes in so much more. It seems like time passes much slower. So those, to think, oh, what do you want in 6 months? It's like, how should I know? It's 6 months away. Whereas like
6 months ago, I was still in high school.
Yeah. And so it's, that culture is a really good way. It's like, people always talk about what's my purpose. I need to find a purpose. It's like, no, you don't. Like eventually, yes, absolutely. But when you're young, I didn't know what I wanted to do till I was 27. I had no idea. I was meandering about. I was writing books. I was fighting. I was traveling. I was doing whatever, and I couldn't figure out for the life of me what my purpose was. But when you're younger, you don't necessarily need your own purpose. If you find another purpose that is almost like a brand that you can represent yourself with, and say, yeah, that's what I want to be part of. Just join on that. Hit your card on that train. And so, and a huge part of having a good culture in your business is having a common purpose and a common vision and going somewhere. So cash and culture are big ones. The last one's important as well is career. Mm-hmm. So cash, culture, and career. And career is a big one. So, and this is especially for your peacock personality types. People like myself that love being on a stage, that always think in the future, maybe a little bit ADD. In my case, a lot ADD.
Get a bit specific here, but yeah.
but it's a very, there'll be a lot of people watching this go, oh my God, that's me.
Definitely.
You're the ones that you need to think in terms of grandeur. You need to think in terms of the future and having a big picture. And now look, the middle stuff is the hard part. So you've got to constantly be reminding yourself, how do I get myself to my big goal, which is just daily goal setting. But why it's so important to understand it, because the question is, what's the best ways to inspire people? Well, the best way to inspire people is to figure out which one they are. And do not, under any circumstance, cross the wires and motivate them with the wrong one.
Yeah.
If you motivate a culture person with cash, you're going to lose them.
They're going to see you as shallow. You're going to lose a little bit of trust from them, because
Absolutely.
For a lot of people, it's not about the money. We've had a guy in our team in the past named Corey. Love Corey. He's a really good friend of mine now. See him every second weekend. He was not money motivated. He really, really loved helping charities. That was why he did the job. That was why he did what he did.
This is charity specific.
Yeah, charity specific. Oh, like this applies to lotteries or any other product. But even if it was, say with the context of helping a customer with a product, if you were to wave a bonus under his nose, like, oh, Corey, if you go out and do this many sales today, I'll give you $100, he would get less sales. He would look down on that. So you've got to understand, as Baz said, you've got to look at which of the 3 C's is going to best inspire that person and stick to that. It's got to be the common language and the common conversation around management. It's like, are you having fun and making money? Are you pushing towards your career?
And that then leads us to the next question with that. Is like, okay, well, how do I find out which one motivates them? It's easy, ask them.
Yeah,
just say,
ask them.
Hey, out of the 3 C's between cash, so money, culture, or adding or contributing, or promoting and growing, which is the most motivating to you?
Yeah, which matters to you the most?
They'll just sometimes they say, I don't know, and you say, think about it, and they'll give you an answer, and then that's how you motivate them. So that's the short answer. The more detailed one's actually going to take me a lot less longer to explain. Is you just got to find out what their whys are.
Yeah.
And what I mean by whys is, I know you hear it all the time. It's a very burned out phrase, but it's like, why are you doing this? And so if they've got a goal, or if you have a promotion structure and then they say that they're interested in it, you just have to ask them 5 times why. And I'll give you an example. So it's like, let's say you're pushing for executive manager.
Sure.
Okay, why do you want to be an exec?
Because I want to make enough money to be financially free.
You want more money. Okay.
Yep.
So why do you want more money?
To take pressure off myself and help my family.
Okay. And so why is helping your family important to you?
Because they've sacrificed so much for me over the years. They poured so much into me. I want to be able to give back to them because I love them.
Awesome. And why is it important that you give back to them and show them that I guess reciprocation of what they've done?
Because I feel like I owe it to them, and they're really good people, and I want to be able to provide for them in a meaningful way.
Okay. Now, normally when you get to this 5th one with someone that's not rehearsing it, you're actually going to end up seeing them get a little bit emotional. They're going to move a little bit. They'll change their body position. They might even well up a little bit in their eyes, because that's when you get a really powerful meaning behind what they're doing. And the moment that you find that, you can draw on that anytime.
Yeah, so you'll find people will realize why they're doing what they're doing prior to them actually realizing it. They'll say they want a goal, but they won't know the deeper,
so much more
subconscious reason behind it. And tapping into that's really powerful.
But then you can then draw on that anytime if you remember. And I literally keep, because I got 35 staff now, I keep it in a journal and what everyone's motivator is. And if I'm struggling, if I see them, for instance, Rory's being lazy, he's not hitting his KPIs, or he's not putting in the extra time outside of work to educate himself, I go, hey, I noticed you're not really hitting your KPIs, Rose. And you go, yeah, okay, yeah, I should be doing it, but that's okay. Are you not really that keen on giving that respect back to your parents and supporting them? And immediately, no, I'm not. Oh, why are your actions congruent with your goals? Oh. And so now you can draw on that anytime. Or in a positive situation, it's like, if he's already on 5 sales, it's like, hey man, look, I reckon you're good for another 5 today. It's a lot of work, but look, what are we trying to do? We're trying to get your parents set up, right? Well, 5 more sales will do it, right? Cool, let's go. So that's the deeper one. Yeah,
so it's a trigger essentially. You don't want to from my experience, you don't want to pull that gun out every day. Because it can get people can get a little bit resentful if you're using it constantly. Yeah. Save it for the important moments. Save it for the times when you really need them to, lift themselves out of a bad mentality, or if they're in a really a big slump. It's a powerful way to re-inspire someone and remind them what they're doing.
But that said, I'd rather too much butter on my toast than
you're correct. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
So to recap, 3 C's, right? Cash, culture, career. Mm-hmm. Pick one. Make sure you got the right one. Don't use the wrong one, and also help them find deeper meaning to their what's actually motivating them. That's how you motivate them. All right. Question for you, BPR.
Okay.
BPR stands for Big Papa Roars. You're curious.
Yeah, get some funny acronyms.
How do you keep yourself motivated during tough times?
Yeah, funny. I just had to do a presentation on this down in the Barossa Valley for our last Top Gen Summit, because I went through a pretty tough time myself. When I say tough time, it's all relative. No one in my family was really sick. Things are much worse for other people all around the world. But in the context of what we do, I went from a really big high to a pretty serious low. Prior to the COVID-19 situation, which is what it is, I was running a 22 to 23 man office. We were hitting number 1 on the bulletin fairly regularly. Had 3 team leaders, running an awesome team. And due to a couple of things in my control and a couple of things out of my control, like COVID and the rest,
like a virus,
a global pandemic that shut down the entire economy. A lot of things basically happened, and I ended up just having 3 to 4 people left on my team. 2 of which were very close friends of mine that ended up having to go back to seas because their visa ended and they want to have babies and buy a house, which they just did, by the way. So congratulations to Danny and Fraser, they ended up seeing this.
We love
it was basically myself, Dean, and Danny and Fraser at the start of COVID. So I was faced with a tough choice, which was to give up or to rebuild the office from scratch. And I guess the best way to keep yourself motivated during tough times is just to put things in perspective. The biggest thing that helped me get through that period of time was that I'd overcome other tough challenges before. This wasn't the first hurdle that I'd ever faced in my life. It wasn't the first adversity that I'd ever had to overcome. I managed to do it last time. Why wouldn't I be able to do it again? It's really about being able to back yourself. I think more than anything, it really comes down to belief that you have what it takes to make it happen. Even if deep down you're not sure, it's telling yourself that you really believe that you can do it. Keeping yourself motivated during tough times starts with your actual actions. So I'm a big believer in that your physical state influences your mental state. So if you're going through a tough time due to the circumstances in your life, it's really important that you're doing the things that are going to make you feel physically good. So exercising, reading, meditating, eating well, doing all those kind of things make a massive difference. It's something that's overlooked when it comes to motivation, is actually putting the right things into your body. Just surrounding yourself with other people who have overcome what you've are looking to overcome. Networking's a massive help with that sort of stuff. That was a big thing for me, was that when we dropped down to 3, I immediately picked up the phone and started talking to Danny. I was speaking to Danny Dimmis once a week. I touched base with Lawrence, speaking to Barrett constantly as well. People who had overcome similar adversities and rebuilt teams in the past. So making sure that I had the right habits, networking and speaking to people who'd done what I wanted to do. Just making sure that I had a really clear goal and a plan to get there, because it's all well and good to have a goal to get out of that tough time, but if you don't have a clear plan to get there, then it's just a dream. So it's reverse engineering what it's going to take to overcome that adversity.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that. I really like that. The other thing that I really recommend as well, when it comes to how do you keep yourself motivated during tough times, is you've got to know where you are. Like if you ever go through a loss, if you ever, like for a situation like Rory where you lost an entire team, it's like you hold yourself to the standard of where you used to be. And if you're used to getting 40, 50 sales a day as a team, and now you all of a sudden you're pushing to get 10 to 15, it's like, whoa, even the wins you're never going to celebrate. So you actually have to properly reset and realize, okay, here's where I am now, and let me be happy about what I'm achieving and not discredit the wins because of where I used to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a big one. So I think that's a great answer. All right, cool.
Yeah, excellent. Okay. Cool. So Barrett's, I could say, a bit of an expert on this. He's just written a book on it. But what tips do you have for building leaders?
So what tips do I have for building leaders? So the number one thing that you need is when you're creating leaders is, okay, what you got to understand what a leader does. So what do you actually need leaders for? Well, leaders are the ones who they enforce your systems and they enforce your culture. So they're the ones that their primary thing is to say, hey, that's good, or hey, that's not good. So if you've got, for instance, we've got a culture, where it's not a very egotistical culture. It's you pick each other up, you don't push each other down. That's one of our core values, is compassion. And we say, if you've got someone who's coming in and making others feel bad, or really bullying or anything like that, you want to have people who can come in and say, hey, that's not on. And how do you empower people to do that? And the answer is just conversations. So the way that you build leaders is you've got to find those moments where they can be doing something, and actively seek those moments and let them know, hey, this is where you should be doing. Now, when it comes to building a leader, like how do you build a really good leader? Well, the other thing that you need to do is you need to let them fail. You have to have an environment where it's conducive to being able to fail. But the only way that you really build leaders is you enable them to go out and screw up. And as long as they're not making the same mistakes, they're going to learn on their own, because otherwise they get spoon-fed.
I think we've all been guilty of that at times in the past. Why do you think it is, let's say, second nature for leaders to wrap their guys in cotton wool? and protect them from failure and, over manage and, over support and run in and save the day all the time. What's the psychology behind that? Like, why do you think we do that?
Perfectionism. I would absolutely say perfectionism. And what I mean by perfectionism, I don't mean in the sense of, everything has to be perfect, but perfectionists, the reason that they're such perfectionists is because they put so much of their self-worth and their value into their results.
Yeah, it's a bit of ego.
A lot of people come in and save the day for two reasons really. One is because they don't want the results reflecting poorly on them.
Yeah.
Or two, it's too much ego where they want to be the hero all the time. And the analogy I use is if you've ever seen the movie Hercules, the Disney movie Hercules, you've got Hercules and then you've got Phil. Phil and Didi's is the Danny DeVito, the little satyr, the half goat. And once you've gotten to a leadership position, your job isn't to be the hero anymore. You had your hero days as an agent. That's when you've got to be the, hey, look at me, everyone. So you've got to do what I call, and this is one of my favorite sayings, is you've got to own your losses and give away your wins. Because the other really core part of building great leaders is building their confidence. You make them confident enough to jump out of the nest and fly on their own wings. And the way you do that is anytime something goes wrong, you own it. You own it and take as much accountability as you can, and that's going to increase their love for you as a leader as well. But also anytime there's a victory, let's say Rory's struggling a bit and I go out there and I help him make a sale, right? And we make a sale together. I don't go, I came and saved you. I made that sale for you. I made a sale for Rory. I go, hey, Rory just killed it, man. Rory had an awesome rapport. I came in just for a bit of banter, but he was smashing it. It's like when you're helping someone lift weights. And they're doing a bench press, and they're struggling to get that last rep up. And
it's all you, baby. It's all you.
And that's how you have to be. So you've really got to be Phil and not Hercules. That's the really important part of building leaders. So there's a few main points, and getting rid of that perfectionism is one.
Allowing people to fail.
Understanding you're allowed to fail.
Yeah.
Not being the hero all the time. Making sure that you're Hercules, so that you're Phil and not Hercules. And the other one, and this is a really easy hack. So this is the number one, the simplest, easiest hack for building great leaders is, what do you think you should do? And what I mean by that is if somebody comes with a problem, the natural tendency is to solve that problem because that's what we think management is. But if we're trying to build great leaders, we want to get them less reliant and realizing they actually know the answer more often than not.
More often than not, I was going to say they're just looking for permission.
They're looking for permission, and so I'll role play with you. So you've got to come up with a problem.
Man. Like I was running lunch or halftime, and a couple of the guys on my team were just being that little bit negative and. They weren't having the sort of conversations that I needed them to have. What should I do?
Oh, cool. Yeah, what do you think you should do?
I probably should have pulled them aside and just had like a private conversation and just explained to them around the company values, why that wasn't on, and just have a chat with them about maybe what they have to do next time.
Okay, and when are you going to do that?
I don't know.
When do you think a good time to do it is?
Probably when it happens.
Okay, cool. And is there something you can do about it now?
I'm working with Timmy now, so I could probably have a chat with him.
Perfect. All right, let me know how you go.
Cool.
And that's it. So the moral of the story is they already know what they're supposed to do. They just don't want the accountability if it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And that's why they ask you. It's just a natural tendency not to fail. So just asking them, what do you think you should do anytime? I only speak in questions with my reps these days. I don't answer anything anymore unless I give them 3 tries and then they fail. That's probably the easiest hack on how to build great leaders.
Within that question, I've actually got a little bit of an addendum for you, Baz, because I feel like there's going to be a lot of people listening to and watching this that are either in a team leader position or who are pushing for a team leader position, potentially even executive manager. When it comes to building leaders, what is the biggest thing or the biggest change that someone can make to get their guys from doing the right thing when they're around to autonomously always upholding the company values, the team values, and doing the right thing when they're not there? Getting someone from that, because you'll have high performing people on your team who, when you're around, are going to do the right thing and enforce the culture and everything's right. But when you're not present, they might, revert back to being a little bit, toxic or selfish and really not doing the things that they're supposed to do simply because you're not there. How do you get someone so autonomous and such a high level leader that they enforce the systems and values even when you're not there?
Well, the proof's in the pudding. And what I mean by that is, like, let's say halftime's a good example. If your guys don't make a sale until, let's say halftime ends at 3:00 and your guys don't make a sale till 4:30, you know that it was a poorly run halftime.
Sure.
The proof's in the pudding, so it's not like you have to. So you always just look at the results, and you can always ask the questions. There's like, and you ask later, how was halftime? We smashed it, man. Everyone was vibing, everyone was good. Okay, cool. So why do you think the results weren't there right at the start? Just the area. Okay, but if it wasn't, do you think you could have done a better job?
Yeah, so it's just conversations.
It's conversations. So the proof's always in the pudding. The other thing, and it's a little bit sneaky, but I thoroughly recommend it if your motive is pure, is spies, man. Spies are the best. So if let's say you've got a halftime and you've got another leader there that just happens to be in that ride out, or let's say you're putting someone on a booth and they're working with another person, just ask them, say, hey man, can you do me a favor at halftime? Can you check and see what this person's vibe's like? Or you put another leader with someone and go, hey, can you go with them? Can you tell me what their vibes are like through the day? And they'll be able to tell you. So as far as supporting the values, number one, the proof's always going to be in the pudding, and having metrics never hurts, like KPIs and things like that. But number two is don't be scared to ask your other leaders to help identify and evaluate, because if you're starting with a good goal, it's like, hey, we really want to make this a number one office. You've got permission to do that. Because then everything you do can do.
Yeah, there's no snitching in this stuff, guys. It's not like the streets of Compton. It's like, we're trying to achieve something big here. If someone's not doing the right thing, we need to know about it, I think, more than anything.
I guess that's not a conducive culture to success. If you have you didn't tell the boss, it's like, well, you're obviously, as a boss or as a leader, you're not connecting with your guys enough and building enough respect.
Yeah, you're creating an atmosphere where people don't feel like they can come to you and talk to you about it. I guess more what I meant is, like, how do you get someone from becoming a high-performing leader who does everything right to really being a stakeholder in the business? Is it just goals? Is it getting someone really tied into the vision of the company?
I think just correlating it to what's important to them.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, the longer someone's in the business and the more they're progressing, they're gonna love it. You will get, if someone's been in the business a long time and hasn't progressed, that's resentment. You've got to find something else for them. Otherwise, they're just gonna see everyone keep passing them over. But if someone's progressing and they're already seeing how much they're getting from it, but then when you get to a leadership position and now you can see firsthand what you're doing for your people, like the way that you can impact their lives, that's going to really help motivate you, and that's going to help your vision come to fruition for sure. So I think that's does that answer the question?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. All right, let's go. I'll jump to one of Tom's questions. So from Tom's office.
Yeah, cool. Okay.
It says, how do you keep your attitude after all the negatives that you'll face on field?
There's a simple answer. The first one is that you just have a mantra in your head that there's things that you can control and things that you can't control. If something happens that you cannot control, that you have no influence over, that you cannot change in any way, shape or form, why would you attach any sort of negative emotion to it? One of our leaders, Dean, ran a really interesting impact today for the guys, which I thought was really funny. The story was, if you were having a party at your house and you've got a big stack of money, you've got $86,400 in cash sitting under your bed, and one of your mates was to come in during the party and steal $100 and run out. You go trying to figure out who it was that stole the money. You're quite upset. You go to a private investigator and you say, "Oh, look, private investigator, one of my friends has stolen $100 cash from my house during this party, and I'm upset about it. I want to find out who it was." And the private investigator goes, "Okay, I'll definitely be able to track it down. In fact, I can have an answer for you by the end of the day. It's going to cost you $40,000." Like, what? I'm not going to pay $40,000. And he's like, "Okay, all right. Well, look, one-time discount. I'll do it for $20,000. It's like, no, I'm not going to pay $20,000 to find out who stole $100 from me." And he keeps going down, $10,000, $5,000, and the answer is always no. It's like, even get down to $200. It's like, would you pay $200 to find out who stole the $100 from you? At that point, just for the satisfaction, you might say yes. It's like, but the reality is, guys, we have 86,400 seconds in a day, right? Okay. If you're going to let a negative, we're talking specifically on turf, someone stealing 100 seconds of your day, a minute of your day, whether it's someone who's given you a bullshit objection or an angry customer or whatever it might be, why would you waste that 40,000 seconds or $40,000 trying to recover that 100 seconds? It's like, I don't know, I try and put things in perspective. It's like, if I'm facing a negative on turf, whether it's a difficult day, a bad response, I always look inward first. Am I controlling everything I can control? Am I in a genuinely good physical state? Are my shoulders back? Is my chin up? Am I breathing properly? Am I holding good eye contact with people? Am I pitching at a high level? Am I someone who people want to talk to right now? Am I being the best version of myself? If it's yes to all of those things, then it's just literally a numbers game. I've just got to keep going until I meet the right person. It's like, but if you focus on the things you can't control, gates, quiet centers for the people on booths, old people, dogs, whatever it might be.
Hang-ups for people on phones.
Yeah, hang-ups for people on the phone, stuff like that. It's like, if you're focusing on the things you can't control, you're rolling the dice. You're just waiting. You're hoping that something good happens in your day to overcome those negatives. That thing might not just pop out of nowhere. So, yeah, for me, it's about controlling the things that I can control and looking at, again, the reason that I'm doing it. It's like, I don't think we remind ourselves often enough of what our real goal is. If I get a negative on turf, I'll sit down and take a 2-minute break. I'll breathe a little bit, and then I'll visualize why I'm doing what I'm doing.
I love that. There's another really good one as well. It's I'm a sucker for a good analogy or metaphor, and it talks about how do you keep your attitude after a negative? And it's like, well, you gotta acknowledge it.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is like, and I don't mean let it affect you particularly, but if you get a splinter, right? You get a splinter in your foot, and rather than pulling it out right away, you let it fester and you just try and keep going and keep pushing and keep driving. Eventually the thing's going to get infected, and then eventually you're going to deal with a serious problem, maybe gangrene. You might have to lose a leg if you don't address the problem, and you're taking painkillers or whatever. And this applies to all sorts of problems in life, longer term or shorter term.
Yeah.
And so you've got to address it, and the way that you address it is you have to kill the monster when it's little.
Yeah.
If you think about like a dragon or something like that, it's if you kill it when it's a baby, it's going to be a whole hell of a lot easier to kill than when it's a fully grown monster. And it's the same with problems. If you address it as soon as it becomes a problem and kill it when it's little, it's not going to be an issue. But the problem with anger and the way the brain actually works, because to process an emotion is a pretty heavy duty thing. You got to actually bring it into your hippocampus as something that you remember. Then it's got to go into your right brain as what's called autobiographical memory. And then once it's done that, then it goes into your left brain, which is your factual memory. And so it has to go through this whole process. And if you don't actually acknowledge it doesn't hit that hippocampus. It stays in your limbic part of your brain, the subconscious part. I know I'm getting a bit heavy duty with it.
Yeah.
But it stays in that floating, I don't know what's happening. And that's where a lot of like PTSD, for instance, where that happens.
Anxiety and things like that.
They don't actually address it as a proper memory and live through it. And that's how you get angry. You get that amygdala, that fight or flight anger about stuff.
Yeah.
And the more rejection you get, the worse that spiral's going to hit, because the more you get rejected, the more desperate you're going to get, and the more desperate you get, the more rejected you're going to get.
You get stuck on a negative feedback loop, and then the big tip that I can actually keep there, guys, is in terms of killing the monster when it's small. It's like you've got to know what your warning signs are, and a lot of people don't address it early enough. For me, I rate my pitches after each pitch. So on my walk sheet, I'll give myself a scoring out of 10 for how good the interaction was. If I get 3 interactions below an 8, I know I need to take 50-10 and I need to stop. Now that might seem like a really high standard for most people, but if I'm getting consistent 8 out of 10s, that's going to go down over time. That's going to drop to 7 and then 6 and then 5. And if I'm pitching through 5 out of 10 interactions without stopping and resetting myself, I am absolutely going to neg out. So it's about raising the standard for when you need to stop and get yourself back in state. If I'm not absolutely firing, if I'm not nailing my pitches, if I'm not laughing with people, if I'm not really enjoying the interaction, that's a warning sign. Yeah. Even if I'm just a little bit off, if I'm not completely in state and at my best, I'm going to stop, take a break, and get myself back in state.
Yeah. The other thing with that is, a lot of people say it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah.
Sales is completely the opposite. It is absolutely a sprint. It is not a marathon. It's like, you watch race cars like NASCAR. They go around, then all of a sudden they pull in for a pit stop, change the tires, put some gas in, get them out there. We're back on the road. You have to do that to yourself. You have to be pitching at 100% energy every time. If you're pitching at 70%, you're not going to make sales.
No.
And so taking those intelligent breaks and acknowledging, like for me, for my warning signs is absolutely the way to kill the monster when it's little. I know, like my goal when I'm out there selling, I haven't for a while now, but I do try. I do try.
Pops out every so often.
Every so often to show them I still got it. But it's if I ever get angry at a customer, because I know my goal when I'm out there, whether I make sales or not, I just want to go make people's day better. That keeps me in a good mood, because whether they buy or not, I'm still impacting their day positively, which gives me more purpose behind what I'm doing.
And it's good for the next person who comes through as well.
Absolutely, yeah. You're priming, you're loosening the lid for when someone needs to open the jar. And if I ever lose that and I get mad at somebody, I know right away that's my warning sign. I'm like, oh, I'm about to lose my attitude. And then I can get that early intervention, take one of those smart breaks, those 50-10s that we were talking about, and I'll watch a motivational video, or I'll call someone, or I'll, even just review my goals to get back in the zone.
Yeah, there's a bunch of different things that you can do to overcome that sort of stuff. It's just staying on top of it and knowing that you need to be in peak state all day, and that when it starts to drop, take a break, get yourself back there and keep chugging on.
Love it. Cool. All right, this one's for you, VPR.
Okay.
All right, this is from Victor's guys, Ethan and Lucas.
Okay.
They've said, being a trainee, so obviously they're quite new, being a trainee, what kind of advice and teachings can I learn and give not only to my leaders, but every person in the team? So essentially what they're saying is, how as a new agent can you add value to your team?
Absolutely. Like the simplest answer to this is just come in and be an absolute lightning rod every single day. It's like, this job is 90% attitude, 10% skill. That's all sales, is your mentality and your energy and the vibe that you're bringing to every day. Just because you're new doesn't mean that your vibe and your energy doesn't count. It's like when I walk into an office for another company and I see everyone beaming and everyone dressed to the T, and I've actually never met those people before, I know it's a really good office when I can't tell who the leader is. When there's not someone who's dressed better than everyone else. When there's not someone who's being more inspirational or being louder or being more fun than everyone else. When everyone in the room is really pumping and adding to the vibe. That's your main responsibility. Before you can train anyone on a new skill, before you can, be the keeper of someone else's goals, your main responsibility is to come in with a massive smile on your face every day. Give high fives, ask how people are going, and just add to the atmosphere in the room. In terms of advice and teachings that I can give, we underestimate that all of us have experienced life before we've come into the office. Just because you're a new salesperson doesn't mean you're a new human. Like, you've probably gone through trauma in your past. You probably had to overcome a challenge at some point in your life. It's like, just because you don't have the sales answers yet doesn't mean you can't help someone in the office. Shit, you see someone who's been around for 6-8 months and they're looking a bit sad that day. Just because you're new doesn't mean you can't pull them aside and be like, hey man, is everything okay? It's like, I wish more new people did that in my office. It'd make such a bigger difference. It's like compassion, helping people, asking your leader what you can do. Just put your hand up. The main recap there is to bring the right energy to every single day, knowing that your energy matters as much as your execs does. And to realize that although you're a new salesperson, you're not a new human. There's still ways that you can help out in terms of culture, problem solving, compassion, keeping people accountable to the stuff they should be doing. Bristles a few feathers sometimes, but new people enforcing the standards is actually more powerful than senior leaders enforcing the standards. So
I love that. That's a great answer. Cool. All right. Throw them my way.
Cool. All right.
Nine's not bad.
Sweet. Oh, cool. All right. So that leads really well into question 9 from Owen's guys, which is, what's the best way to a high energy atmosphere every single day?
Okay, so again, I always, if you know me, I'm a why guy. I'm always a why guy. I liken myself to like a watchmaker. I love to see a watch, pull it all apart, see how everything works, and then put it back together better than before.
Yeah.
And that's sort of always been my MO. So when we say, let's look at, how do we create a high energy atmosphere? The first thing you need to know is, okay, why is a high energy atmosphere important? Why do you need it? And besides the idea of like, you make more sales, it's like we see it like a Hot Wheels track. You ever play with Hot Wheels when you were in like a kid?
Yeah, it was like my favorite 6th birthday present for that. Yeah.
So the thing with the Hot Wheels ones, right, is it like you feed it through this thing. It's got these 2 little wheels spinning real fast, and it just goes shung, and then it comes out and does all the loops and all that kind of thing. And so creating an atmosphere, it's especially atmosphere out to the field or out, even if you're on phones or whatever, you want the car to go as fast and as far as possible. So number one, you need a really good motor to start, which is that atmosphere in the morning. Those morning meetings are so powerful. Even if you're doing them on a call or things like that, they're super, super powerful. Yeah. But also you want to make sure that you've got a nice straight track. You don't want as many loops or turns in it, because that's going to slow the car down.
Yeah.
And so to address the first part of it is like, okay, how do you get a high energy atmosphere? It's just about accountability. And what I mean by accountability is like, you're either one of 2 things, right? You're either a thermostat or a thermometer, right?
Okay.
A thermometer, I should say, tells you the temperature.
Yeah.
Right? Thermometer tells you the temperature. And a thermostat is the thing that sets the temperature. And you're either going to be somebody who is just waiting for the temperature to be set, or you're going to be somebody who's setting that temperature.
Okay.
And the paradigm there is that if you are a thermometer, if you're not adding to the vibe, you're taking away from it.
Yeah.
Seriously, if you're not adding to that energy, you're taking away from it.
Well, yeah, I guess the energy in the room is an average of the energy that each individual person brings.
Yeah, it's an average, not a median. So if you've got, everybody is having a vibe and one person is sulking around because their girlfriend's cat was throwing up this morning, it's like that one person is drastically dropping the energy of the room. So the education on why it's important to have a good energy in the room and why and how not having a good energy and not being that thermostat is going to affect everyone else, then you can just hold people accountable. So as long as everyone knows it, if someone comes in, not feeling 100, being there is a privilege. Being there is not a right. It's a privilege to be part of that meeting. And so if someone's not bringing it, I'll notice it right away. Hey, do you mind just coming outside? Hey, is everything okay? Yeah, okay, because you don't look like everything's okay, and we need you to look like you want to be here. Look, if you're going to come back in, are you going to be able to bring the energy that we need? Yeah, okay, can you show me? Shoulders back, head up? Okay, cool. All right, let's get back in there. So actually holding them accountable is super powerful. And the other thing is, okay, well, how, specifically what makes a thermostat, specifically what makes someone add to the value of the room, it's really, really easy. Do you want to be there?
Yeah.
You have to look like you want to be there, because and we've all experienced it before. You've come into an office where a lot of the people don't look like they want to be there.
Mm-hmm.
How many sales do you think you're going to make that day? I remember Lawrence said something to me a long time ago. He goes, you can tell how many sales your team's going to make before they even go out on the field.
Yeah.
That's because that energy is so important. So that's the first part. The second part's really easy. It's like, okay, how do you take all the loops and turns out? It's like you have to make it someone's responsibility every single day to have urgency. Let's say they're doing doors or residential, right? If they're dicking around at the servo for 20 minutes before they go out and sell, I forgot my iPad, I didn't charge this. If there's problems and disorganization and a lack of urgency, you're going to lose that energy right away. So actually,
I look at the energy between like the meeting and impact and getting to field or getting on the phones or getting to site. If you're in shopping centers, it's like an hourglass. It's like every second between when the meeting finishes and when you knock that first door, make that first phone call, or stop that first customer, there's a little bit of sand trickling down out through the hourglass. And if you wait too long, by the time you get to turf, everyone's lost all of their urgency, all of their impact, all of their energy for the day. You're trying to cycle uphill at that point rather than ride downhill. So
it's not going to help. So super important that. So the number
have a timekeeper.
How do you have a timekeeper, have a cruise leader, have somebody who's in charge of making sure everyone gets out there as quick as possible, and that the energy and drive to get out there is good. And you've run it well when you're getting like 3 or 4 first pitch sales, because they're bringing that right energy. But understanding how important the atmosphere is the first part of having a great atmosphere, and then obviously holding people accountable and making people responsible is the way to follow through.
Yeah. The other thing as well is in terms of creating a high energy atmosphere, it's just about the business fun balance. You've just got to be doing fun stuff. You got to have fun goals. You got to have idiosyncrasies, all little inside jokes. You've got to make it a fun work environment, because it's all well and good to hold people accountable and say, be happy. But you've got to give people an environment where they actually want to be happy. So making sure that the culture's right really helps with energy as well.
Absolutely. All right, cool. Any that you're looking at that you like?
Yeah, cool. I think this is a really important one. Number 6. What do you love most about this industry?
I'll turn it on you. What do you love most about this industry?
Okay, cool. What I love most about this industry is the ability that it has to completely change people for the better. I know that sounds a little bit corny on the surface level, but I've experienced it. Came into sales being a naturally talented person. I never really had to try hard at many things that I did. I was just naturally good at stuff. I was really smart as a kid. And then, I never really, because of that, I never had to develop a strong work ethic or, a really rigid set of morals or anything like that, because I could just make things happen without trying very hard. Talk my way in and out of everything. I finished a university degree. I didn't do a single assignment before the day that it was due. Not a single one. And graduated with really high marks. It was ridiculous. But what sales taught me, and especially management taught me, what I love about this industry is that you can only get so far with your talent. There's a ceiling for what you're naturally good at or what you've come in with. After a certain point, you have to grow. You have to get better. You have to change in order to promote, in order to build a team, in order to really care about the people around you and get to where you need to be. There's a limit for everyone. Some people's ceiling is a little bit lower, but I think that's the beautiful part, is because it is a criteria-based promotion system for all of what we do. There's no nepotism, there's no favoritism. You are the only person holding you back from achieving what you want to achieve. So it's a tough pill to swallow when you realize that. But once you get on that journey of self-development, it's amazing. Like I look at how much more I think about the other people around me than I used to, how cynical I used to be, how sarcastic I was, how much being a positive thinker and a problem solver and a planner. I would never have used these words to describe myself before coming into this industry, but I've got a bunch of characteristics now that underpin deeply who I am as a person that just weren't there before I was in sales.
That's awesome. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Well, I think, it's funny you say that you talk about self-development, because you say, if I were to answer that question as well, what do I love most about the sales industry is with the right team, and it's an important caveat, with the right kind of business and leadership running it. You look at, like seminars, like I love a good, like Tony Robbins or Eric Thomas.
Me too.
I'm a sucker for them, but the problem with those, right, is you get a good 2 to 3 weeks, and then all your old habits kick back in, and there's no follow through. And it's a huge problem in the industry. And what I love so much about this job is the only way that you can really succeed at a high level, you must learn discipline, you must learn accountability. That's a huge one. You have to learn resourcefulness. You have to learn to fall in love with education. You have to learn so much about, in terms of, the things and traits you need to develop and habitualize.
And because of the results-based atmosphere, you're held accountable to that.
You're held accountable to it, because if you're not hitting the results,
you're
not doing one of those
the things you
things.
need to do.
You're missing one of the parts of the equation.
Yeah, bang on.
And so what I love so much about sales is the follow-through, because you can't just learn it and then go, oh, that was great, and then stop doing it. You're constantly reminded
of whether you're doing it or not.
You have to, on average, you have to learn something 7 times before it actually sticks, before that cluster of neurons forms into a fully formed synapse.
Sure.
And for you to actually, just habitually do things in that, what they call unconscious competence, where you just do it properly without thinking. And because you're constantly faced with failures and inadequacies, you're constantly getting reminded, oh my God, I forgot I
didn't do that thing I was supposed to do. That would have helped me avoid that failure.
Absolutely.
It's the accountability.
And so it's not just the personal development on surface level and the concepts. It's the implementation and the follow through that you just can't get anywhere else unless you're in like a competitive sport environment or a military environment or something like that. And I think the fact that you can then couple that with being able to make a bunch of money, that you can put that education and the opportunity together in tandem, I think is just breathtaking.
I agree. I think another thing that I really, really love about the industry is the team aspect of it. It's like, if I asked any person listening to this what their worst fear in sales would be, if I was to say going out and selling solo on turf in a shopping centre, at home on the phones, for the next 6 to 8 weeks, no office interaction, no team interaction, no crew nights, none of the fun stuff, most people listening to this would quit. And I'd consider myself in that group. The big reason why I love this job and I love this industry is that you don't do it alone. You're always doing it with people around you who you care about, who care about you, who know your goals, who want to see you succeed. When the culture's right. Obviously, there's a lot of companies out there that don't have that sort of culture, but I think that's the benefit of the gig network, is that every single owner in this business is really about the team aspect of what we do, and that you never do it alone. So I know that sounds like a little bit sort of cheesy and corny, but it's massive, is the fact that you've got a bunch of mates that you get to do it with every single day.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. I'm liking number 4.
All right, awesome. All right, Big Barrett, what is the best way to build rapport?
What is the best way to build rapport? Look, the best way to build rapport is to understand why we need rapport and what it is. And you understand, like rapport, it literally just means trust and comfort.
Yeah.
And you're trying to make people trust you and feel comfortable enough with you in order for them to accept your leadership through a sales process. And when you're looking at rapport, it's like, well, rapport is, how do you actually achieve that trust and comfort? And it's not rocket science. You just have to make them feel good and be similar to them.
Yeah.
Like the human brain naturally gravitates towards what it knows and runs away from what it doesn't know. So somebody that's very different from you, unless you're actively trying to be open-minded, your natural tendency is like look, I like money. I like being able to, I like winning, and I don't mind winning if someone else has to lose. And it doesn't mean I'm cutthroat or compassionless. I do a lot for my guys.
Oh, probably one of the most generous people that I know.
But if I'm at a party and I see some like white chick with dreadlocks, with like the stretchers and
septum ring.
Yeah, and a septum ring and
neck tap.
Yeah, and the odds of her liking me are very low. I'm everything that person chooses to represent themselves against. And there's not going to be a lot of common ground. Yeah, I mean, we may surprise each other, but in terms of first interactions, there's not a lot of chance that we're going to go over and start striking up a conversation. You naturally gravitate towards people who are similar to you.
Yeah.
So then, okay, well, how do we build rapport with customers? It's like, well, you know, mirroring and matching is super powerful, and not all rapport has to be spoken.
No.
You know, if someone's loud, you be loud. If someone's quiet, you be quiet. Right? If someone is, you know, they're very passionate, you be passionate. If someone's informational, you be informational. So being able to mold to customers is a really good way to be similar to them without them even realizing it. Even things like if they're leaning on a door and you lean on a door, subconsciously they still register that and they still understand that without even realizing it in their conscious mind that you guys are all right. They go, oh, I don't mind that guy or that girl.
And on that topic, I think it's just finding common ground with the customer, however, in whatever way, shape, or form you can.
Conversationally speaking, so we're actually talking about what we talk about, you're literally, and Rapport, you don't have to go on forever unless you really strike something good, but I liken it to, you know, when you're reversing a car, you only reverse as far as you need to reverse. You don't want to go any more than you have to. With Rapport, you know, all I'm trying to do is find that common ground. So I'm just going to get you talking about stuff you like, because people like talking about stuff they like, and then I'm going to find something that we have in common. How do I find something in common? Well, it's either going to be something we mutually like, preferably, because people love a bitch, it's going to be something you mutually dislike, or if you can't find either of those things, make fun of yourself. Yep. So mutual like, mutual dislike, or self-effacing humor is huge. So a good example is like, let's say you're a carpenter.
Sure.
Or a roofer, you're a tiler.
Yeah, sure.
And I used to work in the industry. And I said, so, oh, you score yourself a day off work today, mate. What do you do?
Yeah, I'm a roofer.
Oh, okay, mate. I'm sure you'd be loving the weather right now. It's so hot.
Oh, yeah, it's great.
Oh,
yeah.
No, I used to be a roofer, man. I know. I don't know how. Like, I can't do it. It's a good weapon. It'd be ruthless high.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's pushing 40 degrees at the moment.
And now we've already bonded over something we don't like together. So always finding something that you can have either mutual interest in or mutual disinterest in. That's what brings you closer with someone. They go, oh, they're like me subconsciously. Then you've now got permission to get a really easy sale. And it's like priming the interaction, because if they like you, you're going to get a much smoother pitch anyway. So literally, I mean, Rory hit it on the head. If you just want to simplify it, just find common ground. But if you can be similar to them in as many ways as possible, you're going to increase your likelihood to make that sale.
Yeah, and rapport doesn't even necessarily mean having a flowing conversation. You might get a dominant personality type that doesn't want to chit chat. It's like the best way to build rapport with that person, which is a shared trust, is to be like them. It's like, cool, I'm not here to waste your time. I'm going to get straight to business. They're instantly going to respect you and like you more. That is rapport. So yeah, I think sometimes we think of rapport as the conversation before the pitch, but it's not just that. It's just getting the person to trust and like you by being similar to them. So I think that's a really good one.
Awesome. Any that blow your skirt up?
Have a look. Okay. What makes a great team leader? Number 8.
Ooh.
Did we cover that?
No.
Number 8? I don't think so. Yeah.
Sweet.
So what are the things that make a team leader great?
Okay, so this is, I'll give you basically an overview of my book. So for those who haven't purchased it yet, Leadership in Sales is up for sale. If you just Google thesalespsych.com.au, you can get yourself a copy. Shameless plug.
Yeah. No shame in the game.
Right, is what makes a great leader. Well, I've broken it down into a framework. One of my favorite things to do as when I'm teaching is I like to make complex topics really simple, and frameworks are a really good way to do that, because you basically find breadcrumbs for how to source things. So the system I use is what's called the 4 S's of leadership. So what makes a great team leader? What makes a great leader of any kind is you need sight. So you need to be able to have a vision that you're working towards. Guys, we're gonna do this, right? And I look at even great presidents or milquetoast presidents. Even you think of like, we're gonna build a wall. Everyone's like, yeah, we're gonna build a wall.
It's gonna be huge.
It's gonna be huge. It's like, so having a vision of any kind, people just like to get behind.
Yeah, something to rally behind.
But also having a vision for what kind of team you want, the kind of identity that you want in your team, what kind of team, and that's where culture comes in handy. So a good team leader has a vision for where they're going. So they've got goals, and they've also mastered culture. They understand how to create a fun environment where people still take their standards seriously.
Yeah.
So that's a really good one, and a place where people are allowed to fail, and you've got a great set of values that everyone follows, and it feels very tribal. That's super important. The next one is standards. So site, standards, support, and systems are the 4 S's. Next one's standards, and there's intrinsic and extrinsic. So intrinsic is the standards you hold yourself to. So a great team leader, for instance, right? Do they ever miss their pitch counts?
No.
Do they ever get inconsistent sales?
No. Are they ever dressed poorly? Are they ever late? Are they ever late? Like that sort of stuff.
So the way that you set standards is by doing it yourself.
Yeah, being the example.
Sometimes hard work is what you need to do. Sorry, everybody.
Yeah.
Right? So are you setting the standards? And then the second one, and it's a harder one for a lot of people because especially as a team leader, you're still everyone's best mate. It's not until you get to exec that you're actually people's boss and they start treating you differently.
Yeah.
But when you're a team leader, you're everyone's best mate. So it's very hard to pull people up on things. But it's really, really easy. It's extrinsic. How do you hold people's standards? Get in early, get in nice. You get in early, you get in nice. So if someone does it, don't wait for 3 days or don't wait for the 5th time they do it, because the 5th time they do it, you're going to blow up because you've been pissed for the 4 times previously and they have no idea what's coming and they're going to be like, bro, dude, and they're going to fight back right away.
People don't know what they don't know. It's the idea is the earlier you have the conversation, the less tough it is. So just act quickly with tough conversations.
Absolutely. And then support, right? Support is broken down into a few things. Are you a good teacher? So do you actually have a framework for how you teach? The one I use is why, what, how. So I actually sell you on why it's important first. So if you're not doing C factors, I'm not going to say, hey, do C factors. Here's what a C factor, smile, like, enthusiasm. I'm going to go, hey, are you over getting told I'm not interested? Yeah. If I could teach you something where people told you I'm not interested 50% less, would you want to learn it? Yeah. Okay, well, let me tell you about C factors, right? So I sell it to you beforehand. I tell you why it's important. Then I tell you what it is and explain it as simply as I can, right? I don't overcomplicate it. I keep it incremental and short. And then I have a way of holding you accountable. So I'll actually say, all right, awesome. Do you want to see me do it? Do you want to watch me do it? Cool. All right, now you do it. I'm going to watch you do it. And actually holding them accountable to doing it and then rewarding them for doing it. So teaching's really important. Also mentoring. So are you hanging out with them outside of work? Are you showing them that you care? Are you helping them set their goals? Are you helping them, if they've got problems in their life? Are you having a beer and actually saying, hey, what's up? Oh, no, I'm fine. What's up? You know what I mean? So really supporting and mentoring. And then the last
it's like with we call it gas factor, which was, I guess, give a hoot. You can see give a shit. I don't know how PG this is supposed to be. Pish posh. It's like realistically, it's what have you done for me lately? It's like you've got to be constantly investing in your team, time, effort, being the keeper of their goals. Simply just going and catching up with them for a beer. It's like we forget about it sometimes, especially if you're a team leader or pushing for team leadership. We sometimes spend too much time with the let's say newer people in our team and not enough time with our senior leaders. These are the people you need to be investing the most time in.
Spend your time with your racehorses, not your donkeys.
Yeah.
So absolutely, and then also with it is, are you, like we answered in the previous question, are you building good leaders?
Yeah.
Are you taking, like, are you trying to fix everything? Or are you actually letting them fail? Are you saying what's the best? What do you think you should do?
Is that the best you can do?
Yeah, challenging them more. Is that the best you can do? Getting more out of them. It's a powerful skill set to have. And then the last one is systems. And what makes a great team leader is like they're the person that enforces the systems. If I had to leave that office for a week, let's say I'm leaving that office for a week as an exec, and I've got that team leader running their team, do I know they're going to enforce the systems properly, or they're going to be taking hour-long breaks, or they're going to be not getting all the pitches out that they need to, or they're going to be negative in the office? That's what a good team leader is do you know what the systems are, and are you enforcing those systems? And the more that you can understand site, standards, support, and systems, that's what's going to make you a great team leader. Cool. I think we've got time for one more.
Yeah, probably one more question.
Let's have a little peek here. I'll throw it your way. This one's a very specific one, right? So this one's from Victor's guys. What key values can you teach your guys coming from an absolute killer of a road trip and converting those values in town and doing similar numbers? So for those who don't know, like, especially in the direct south, when you go out to country towns or places that don't get hit as much, you really do get a phenomenal response more often than not. And that then goes into the question. It's like, okay, so you do really well on that road trip. How do you then convert that to coming back home?
Yeah. Well, I guess what you got to look at in the equation is, again, what are the things that you can control, and what are the things that you can't control. So the benefits on going on road trip are that, you do meet more people who don't get closed as often. So they don't have their objection guns ready to go. They're a little bit warmer to salespeople because they don't get knocked or interacted with all the time. They're a little bit more relaxed because they live in a country town. It's not a crazy city vibe. So those are things that you can't control. That's why it's important to leave those things behind. What you need to look at is the extra things that you've done to take advantage of those advantageous circumstances, the nicer country people. It's like, are you doing more pitches per day when you're on road trip? Absolutely. Do you have that real killer instinct? When you're on road trip, you close every single person 3 times. Why, realistically?
That's a huge one. Are you objection handling?
Are you objection handling every single time like you do on road trip? Do you know why you're far more likely to 3 times close more often on roadie? Is because you believe that person's a sign-up because you're in a country town, because you're on road trip. The reality is you're getting more sign-ups because you're bringing that top-level pitch to every single pitch. You're closing every single person 3 times. You have that real resourceful mentality. I've really got this goal for the day. I want to get this many sales. I'll do whatever it takes to get there.
You get so many street pitches, and people just saw you're at lunch, you're at halftime, you're eating, and you go to Subway and you pitch the person making you a sandwich.
Yep. 100%. It's like these are all you got to look at the actions that you've taken on road trip and ask, how can I convert those back to home? So if it's extra miling on pitches, it's maybe having a metric for that. It's like for people who get as many pitches as they are on roadie, having some sort of incentive or bonus. When it comes to extra miling the 3 times closes, it's really enforcing and teaching your guys that the 3 times close is part of the reason why we did so well on roadie, not just because we were meeting country people. So looking at the extra actions that you've taken, and then finding a way to actually implement those back at home as well. So more pitches, 3 times closing every single person, looking at every single person as a sign up, regardless of what energy they give you at the start of the conversation. You don't know whether someone's going to sign up unless you've given them the best pitch that you can and you've closed them 3 times. That applies at home and on road trip. I think it's just not settling for minimums. On road trip, you've got that mentality that if you're going to be away from your loved ones, away from your friends, away from your dog, away from your partner, you're going to make it worthwhile. You're going to put everything on the line no matter what. It's like, imagine I think it's about future authoring. Imagine if we did that every single week from home with every single person in the team. How much more quickly could everyone get promoted? How much more money could people make? How much more could we raise for charities, or how many more products could we sell? It's about, you've got to sell to your team the benefit of having a road trip mentality at home, I suppose, at the end of the day.
Yeah, I love that. Cool. Well, look, I think that's a great one to finish on. Look, at the end of the day, everyone's trying to get better, and everyone's trying to get their teams making more sales. And I think that bringing that level of hunger and standard and desire to push for more, I think that's going to help everybody. So, look, guys, thanks so much for listening. I've had a blast. I think.
Yeah, me too.
We're gonna have some fun. Moving forward, look, we just want you to send your questions in. To your leaders over the week. We'll be doing these every week or every 2 weeks.
Having guest speakers on, people from all around the industry and all around the country coming through.
And the motivation is simple. We want to add as much value to you guys as possible, and really impart a lot of the experiences that are going to help you shave off time for you to get to where we are.
Yeah. Danny Dimmers put it really in a really interesting way to me when I first started pushing for team leader. He said, by tripling your learning, by tripling your networking, by tripling the beneficial information that you're taking in, you half or third the amount of failure that you have to go through. We always say in this industry that you have to fail to learn. No, you can learn from other people's failures without actually having to fail yourself. It's like a cheat code to skipping ahead to where you want to go. So really take advantage of this podcast, network more, learn more. You don't have to fail. You can actually, skip the line to get to where you want to go by doing that.
Old fast pass.
Yeah, baby.
Awesome. Thanks again, guys. And as always, happy hunting.
Happy hunting.